But eclipses are really about like the hellmouth being absolutely cracked open. It's a little bit, it's sort of like you have to observe what the trials and revelations are as they're happening and deal concurrently. It's a lot less about like before this eclipse, I want because it's a climax. It's an orgasm. It's not something you can like hone. It's something you can ride. Welcome to my star children and absolute undisputed number one angels through time and space. You are back with me, David Odyssey, at Heavenly Bodies, a trip through the cosmos with David Odyssey. We are going to be talking about the debut of Pisces season. And I will be telling you all about those events and what Pisces season is and what the hell is going to be happening. This is always the end of the winter. We are in that like, and I'm having an Airbnb, like a Facebook sublet person, come and stay in my apartment. And I just had to do the thing where you like actually have to clean your apartment. And I had to, you want to like make space for the person. So you're like freeing up all these drawers and you're trying to free up closet space. And you're going through all of this crap that's in your home. This is very much kind of the assignment. Like, we're really in the end of winter and we're looking towards the dawn of spring. And there is that sort of thing of like clearing out the crap, but also there is this sort of assessing all the jewels and gems that one has collected over the ages. There is something kind of beautiful of going through the closet and this sort of like resurrection and rediscovery of being like, oh, there was an era where I actually wore that jumpsuit and that may never happen again, but like that self existed and has existed. This is what happens when I am going through my drawers. I also, okay, a dear friend of mine recently moved. He cleared out his storage space and he was doing the things where you like give things to your friends before you move, like before you leave town. He gave me like a bag of used sex toys and I finally like I just like had them in my apartment because I felt too guilty. I was like, "Thank you," but then it was like, "This has to get out of my apartment." Like it's sick enough that I have these accursed items in my home. I'm about to have an Airbnb in here. They can't find the secret loot. So I put them on the street, and that's another aspect. We're really in the letting go. We're really in the releasing. So let me kind of like pave the way and give you some details about what the hell I'm talking about. February 18th through March 20th, the sun will be, at least from our point of view, in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is not only the final sign of the winter season, Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. I have always felt, and this was before I even became a professional astrologer, there is an arbitrariness to having the Gregorian year end December 31st. Astrologically speaking, it's a bit more about, okay, the winter is the death, the spring is the rebirth. We'll see with this, we get quite a few of these like dawn of spring holidays during the season, one of which is Nowruz. March 20th, we get Nowruz, which is the Persian New Year celebration. That is aligned with the spring equinox and Ostara. Ostara is a Roman festival, which is really celebrating the return of Venus from the underworld. The myth and I trust me, this is all going somewhere. The myth of Persephone, my patron goddess, is that in the spring, Persephone is the kind of virgin maiden of the flowers. And in the winter, she descends into the underworld, into the dark dimension where she becomes the queen of winter, the queen of the dead. Persephone, represents this duality of the seasons. And when we see Ostara and also the Iranian Persian Zoroastrian holiday of Nowruz aligned with the spring equinox on March 20th, we are celebrating the return, the flowering, the coming back to life. So Pisces season is what happens before that. Pisces season is really the wrapping up of the year, of the zodiac. Pisces is wrapping up the previous 12 signs, including, the previous 11 signs, sorry. Persephone as queen of the underworld, if we think about the underworld as the sort of repository of all of our trauma, memory, history, also our inheritances, our gifts, things that have been buried, things that have been passed down. Persephone, you can think of her as doing a final tour through the halls, the piles of prizes and jewels and gifts. If you think about the final scene in The Mummy, when they're escaping the tomb and there's all that gold, there's mounds of gold, mounds and mounds of treasure. Pisces is about that. Pisces is about, okay, all of these signs have left us a lot. They have left us these gifts. They've left us these treasures. They've left us these mistakes, these burdens, these terrors, these fears, these horrors. Let's go through it all. So Pisces as the final sign of the zodiac is the melding of everything we've learned in the year, in a lifetime through our zodiac. It is the final review or synthesis, and there is a bit of a sense of, all right, you can only bring a few of these treasures back up with you. If we think about Aries as being the egg hatching, the new life emerging, we're returning up to the world of the living, you really can only bring a few of these lessons up with you when we start the new cycle. We can't be carrying all of this contemplation and review and awareness and synthesis. And no, we gotta pack light. Pisces is very much about, like I said, we're about to do the spring cleaning. So we're wanting to do a bit of a final healing, a final grieving, a final cleaning out of the cupboards before we go big. So let's talk about what this will look like. Pisces season, because we're still in the winter, is very much, it's a really nice time for being in the studio, being in one's home domain, doing the deep crying or the really messy artwork or that very internal stuff that needs to happen before you start thinking about spring and summer as a bit more like, hello world, here I am. You know what I mean? So it's a nice time to go deep into the personal, the spiritual, etc. So let's talk about what some of those key events will be during this Pisces season so that you can kind of get going. I should mention on February 20th, Saturn and Neptune will be having their historic conjunction. I have a full episode on this, on the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. The reason I am bringing this up now is because it is, I'd be remiss to not mention it, but also it's an opportunity. Saturn and Neptune are two planets which are coming together historically. Saturn is the planet of accountability, structure, sobriety. Neptune is the planet of intoxication, dreams, imagination. So we're already entering this really good moment in our review process of saying all right, if things were to start cooking again, if we had a bit of a thaw, what have I learned about myself that will help me to not fuck things up and sabotage myself in the next round? Pisces deals so much with self-sabotage and martyrdom and victimhood. So there is this moment of, over the last 15 years, over the last 3 years, over the last year, over the last 30 years, whatever it looks like. All of those have astrological resonance, by the way. What has been the genie in the bottle, that has sucked me in every fucking time? And if we wanted to think about this as the dawn of a new beginning, before we even start thinking about what that's going to look like and what's out there, what do we need to be aware of that's gotten in the way this far? So again, if we're doing the tour of the underworld, there really is, okay, we are seeing some of the ghosts, shades, goblins, and demons who have occupied this place. And there is just a sense of, okay, I'm aware of this. I am going to be as aware of this as possible. I'm going to forgive it. And then we're going to have to keep moving. Okay. The other, this is really amazing. The North Node, my producers are going to kill me for overcomplicating, but in astrology, there's something called nodes, which are these points where the moon's orbit meets the Earth's elliptical. They're basically these like points of consciousness in the orbit around the Earth. There's something called a North Node, something called a South Node. The North Node is currently in Pisces. It's been in Pisces for like 2 years now. On the 27th, the sun will be hitting the North Node in Pisces. The sun, the source of light, the source of self, of purpose, of vitality, is really wanting to say, like, we're doing this Pisces thing of like taking it all in and digesting it and downloading it and being with it and synthesizing it and being in the process. So again, I think like the toothpaste will be leaving the tube quite soon as we're entering Aries season. And already, I can talk about a few of the reasons why, but you'll feel the momentum picking up. Spring is coming, as Caroline Polachek would say. But there is a deep sense of reward to all of the inner dealing and, sifting and contemplating, and all of that does come to some sort of a point of like, this is all kind of paying off. So I do want to point that out because we are, and if you listen to other episodes of this podcast recently, there's so much about this being a brand new era and about all of the sort of like nostalgia and closure and all of that work being over, and we can kind of launch. I think right now we're doing the final, like, I am going to put a glaze on the collage. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, so let's talk about some big events. Oh, this is so good. March 2nd, Mars is entering Pisces, where it will be until April 9th. I was born with Mars in Pisces. It's a huge pain in the ass. I mean, it's amazing, but Mars is the planet of ego, drive, sexuality, embodiment, ambition. Pisces being the sign of universal consciousness and empathy, it's a subsuming planet for Mars. It's quite difficult to assert one's sense of selfhood. When Mars enters Aries on April 9th, you can pop off, time to go to war, time to get on horseback, shablam. But it's a very bizarre period when Mars is in Pisces. Mars in Pisces famously has, my fellow Mars in Pisces sex symbols include Carrie Fisher, Elizabeth Taylor, Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn, Michelle Pfeiffer. These are women for whom the way people project onto them often does not allow them to like be themselves or just be. And I really relate to that. I think people are often projecting their story of me onto me when they see me on the dance floor or otherwise. And then they usually discover like, oh, you're actually way more complex than, not complex, but you're not what I thought you were. I projected these ideas onto you. And, like Carrie Fisher talked about, and I really highly recommend the Carrie Fisher documentary on HBO. I've watched it 100 times. It's Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds. But Carrie Fisher is just like, look, I'm Princess Leia's custodian. She is occupying my body and she's going to outlive me. And I think there's this Mars and Pisces thing of the contemplation, Mars saying, my identity isn't fixed. I take all these forms, and some of these forms I take by choice. If you think about Michelle Pfeiffer, she's like, I'm going to be the Countess Olenska in Age of Innocence. I'm going to wear cowboy boots in Dangerous Minds. I'm going to be Catwoman. If you're listening to this podcast, I hope you know that Michelle Pfeiffer is my absolute all-time number one. No questions asked. But I'm bringing all this up to say, as we are going through our closets, so to speak, and looking through the looks and looking through the forms and looking through the collage, that multiplicity can be frustrating. And but I think it can also allow for a real contemplation around what am I putting into the world and what are they seeing and why and how. The reason this is relevant, and nothing is coincidental or incidental in astrology, March 3rd, just as Mars has entered Pisces, is the Jewish holiday of Purim. If you have not seen Christopher Guest's For Your Consideration, that will be your crash course. Purim is for we Jews, that this is our costume holiday, and it's based on this story of basically in ancient Persia, a Jewess, Esther, who goes undercover. It's very miscongeniality. She basically goes undercover as a bridal candidate for the king who is about to have all of the Jews of the land executed. And she basically does what needs to be done in this very chic espionage way and convinces him not only to spare her people, but to have his anti-Semitic lieutenant slain. So Purim is this amazing, and Purim is this very lit holiday. You're supposed to get wasted. Everyone dresses in costume. But, my rabbi in Los Angeles, Sharon Brous, would always say it's about the shadow side. You're wanting to bring out the shadow side. And there's this aspect with Purim. And if you think about Esther having to do the miscongeniality thing of going undercover and playing this role, we're really in the contemplation of our role. And I think Mars in Pisces allows for that. Mars in Pisces, we're leading to Mars in Aries. So we're really about to get into that active form. But right now, and again, like I said, Pisces deals a lot with victimhood. So when Mars in Pisces is traditionally known as the don't tread on me position. And let me tell you from personal experience, it's very difficult because there is this sense of I never had a chance. They all stepped on me, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That needs to be interrogated right now. That's really needing to get interrogated of who's really doing that. You know what I mean? This will be relevant because Venus is already entering Aries on March 6th. Venus, beauty, artistry, the form we take, okay? Creativity, how we want to be seen, how we want to be loved. Venus will be entering Aries on March 6th. She will be encountering Saturn, planet of structure, form, definition, Neptune, planet of imagination, higher consciousness. So the makeover montage, may I just say, is well underway. Venus in Aries hitting Saturn and Neptune is very, again, if we're doing the miscongeniality thing, Gracie Lou Freebush is stepping out with the aviators. So these forces are kind of happening back to back and concurrently, which is if I'm ready to start dictating what the new form I'm going to take is going to be, we have to consider what forms I have taken, how people have seen me, how I've wanted or not wanted to be seen, what role I've played for others, what is the sort of multiplicity of the mirrors. And we're really playing around with that. And it's inside out. It's very, okay, if you've been looking at me this way, I want to show you the next incarnation or the next form. But yeah, Venus in Aries is great. Speaking of Michelle Pfeiffer in Age of Innocence as the Countess Olenska, it is very much walking up the stairs, red dress, white gloves, fanning yourself. Every man in the room is on his goddamn knees. So, the debut du saison is imminent. Okay. The other event, again, we're back to March 3rd. Purim will be going down, and it's going to be quite a lit one if you and your rabbi are going to be taking shots, as I know I will be with mine. By the way, last Purim, I went as Rogue from the X-Men, and it was an absolute slay. Not one person got the costume, but it was a full slay. I was on antibiotics at the time, so I could not drink. But we found other solutions to have a good time. Okay, March 3rd, the event is upon us. A full moon total lunar eclipse at 12 degrees Virgo. We have, as of late February, I believe it was February 27th, we had a annular solar eclipse in Aquarius. We talked about that in our Aquarius season rundown. Eclipses, just so you can get the refresher, eclipses come in twos. So there's always one on a full moon, one on a new moon. And you get 2 eclipse seasons a year. So this is the kind of winter before spring eclipse season. And then we will be having another one in the fall. Eclipse season, so there is this kind of like back to back. It's not just one, you get 2. And eclipses are about these sort of flashpoint portals opening. It's quite difficult to like set your intentions and prepare. You can observe where they're going down in your chart. And you can kind of contemplate, okay, if it's happening in these signs, what are the themes that are going to be happening? But eclipses are really about like the hellmouth being absolutely cracked open. It's a little bit, it's sort of like you have to observe what the trials and revelations are as they're happening and deal concurrently. It's a lot less about like, before this eclipse, I want, because it's a climax. It's an orgasm. It's not something you can like hone. It's something you can ride. Oh, that was good. Okay. So the full moon total lunar eclipse will be at 12 degrees Virgo. Let me explain. Astrology, the zodiac is a wheel. So the wheel is broken into halves. Every sign has an opposite with which it is in direct correspondence. They're 2 sides of a coin. Pisces' direct opposite is Virgo. So when the sun is in Pisces and it is directly opposing the moon in Virgo, the sun in Pisces is blasting its light directly onto the moon, and we are going to be receiving all of that full power. The moon, when it's full, is, again, like a giant hole opening, but the moon is reflecting, refracting, and kind of like showing the shadow side or the dark side, or even just the downloaded side of the sun's light. Pisces deals a lot. Pisces is thought of as like mental health, the emotional realm, the oceanic, there's no boundaries. Everything is connected. This kind of universal, as like I said, Sinead O'Connor during her first Saturn return in Pisces gave us universal mother. It's very that. Virgo is the opposite. Virgo is all about like, I have to make order out of this. Virgo rules the lower intestines. Virgo's like, we need to like process all of this and direct it into different parts of the body. Virgo deals so much with, we can make clarity or information or order or knowledge out of all of this. So it's a really nice, I would say it's really like an orgasm between the spiritual and the operational. Virgo is the high priestess. Virgo really is well symbolized by the woman of the temple, whose body is her temple. If you think about the Virgin, it was the temple priestess. Pisces is the divine. So I think this eclipse has that potential. Again, like we're talking so much about this period being about synthesis and closure. And I do think that this eclipse or this full moon is supposed to bring a lot of this big, shattering, intense, painful, emotional, spiritual, global, like mass consciousness into the like, all right, let's do something with this. I think we get ways of dealing and healing. We know that as Neptune and Saturn and even Venus are moving into Aries, things are going to get a little more practical. And if you listen to our fabulous episode with Malia Croy about Neptune and Aries, she talks a lot about like, okay, we can do all of this processing around inherited trauma. Maybe it's time to like schedule a run or like a Pilates class. And I think we're going to be getting that. I think this eclipse will bring up a lot of pain, but there is a sense of, where do we need to put it now? Where does it go? How does it go? How is it being practically? How is it being employed badly or well or beautifully or abusively? Okay. The last time we had an eclipse at this degree of Virgo was in 2007. And what was interesting about that period was that YouTube had just launched and it was really running rampant. And the other kind of media conglomerates were like, this was when Hulu was being kind of like stitched together as like, okay, we're going to need to move in the direction of things being on the computer, and let's form a competition and let's form like a structure. So I wanted to point that out because I thought that was really, there is a sense of, all right, we have these chaotic forces. Can a new thing be created to contain it? Also, March 2007, I hate to talk about this because this is so manosphere, but let's just fag out and say it. 300, the movie, came out. And 300, what is so much about this erotic fetishization of this very like ordered Spartan society. And it's this sort of like bodybuilder porno fantasy of order, control, fitness, firmness, stability. I so I hope you're understanding the themes I'm talking about here, which is this dance between chaos, emotionality, kind of all the floodgates being opened, all of this kind of open, these open platforms, these sort of new technologies that are running rampant. Hello. And this just having too much to deal with. And these sort of, whether it be either like kinky and ridiculous or quite organizational and active, but these new ways of putting all of this to sense or to use or to just finding ways to deal. Like I've been saying, with Mars in Pisces is the body being so connected to the emotional, spiritual, psychedelic, psychological realm. And I think it's really worth it to be thinking right now about, what do we do with this physically? Just like, what do we do with this physically? Where does this go? What does the crying look like? What does the fitness look like? Where are the endorphins coming in? What sort of spicy foods help you sweat this out? Like, we're entering the dialogue to get us out of our, not to get us away from our emotions. It's not that. I think Mars and Pisces, I can speak for myself. Like, I am an emotional, spiritual lightning rod. Like, you put me on the dance floor and I don't really have to do much. Like, it is all moving through me. But getting me to the dance floor and getting me moving, that's the thing. So I think a lot of the assignment right now is not only in the considering of like what the new era and the new debut and the new self is. I think a huge amount of it is trying to understand, okay, on this journey of processing and just of being sensitive to the world around us in terms of how we take in all of this shit, what do we need to edit so that maybe those streams of consciousness are a little bit more streamlined and clear? And what are we too sensitive for? By the way, like, I deleted Grindr for Rosh Hashanah, and for my birthday this year, I deleted Instagram. And it's not to say like, and now I'm perfectly healthy and totally sane. I'm still a whack job lunatic maniac, but I can really understand like, oh my God, I couldn't handle those things. Those things were making me crazy. They were making me completely dissociate from my body. So it's good when we have Pisces things and Virgo things going on to be like, what's the thing to put you in your body so that you can then be like dealing? So I would really try to like do that dance. Like, what is therapeutic to you that isn't just therapy? Or even in therapy, maybe you're doing breath work and that's like the way to go. But yeah, I would just, it's not just that your body is a temple, your body is the channel. Hello. Okay. March 2007, we also got Mika's Life in Cartoon Motion, which is also this very like, again, it's bringing this like huge emotional spectrum into this like solid, laborious form. And I just listened to his interview on the Jake Shears podcast, which was amazing, where he's talking about like the sitting at the piano, the literalization, the labor, the bringing it all down. Okay. I love this. March 17th, we get Liberalia, which is the Roman holiday of kind of boys becoming men. It's really like the initiation of boys into manhood. I thought that was really worth mentioning because, again, the inner child work is kind of coming to fruition, and we're wanting to unleash like the youthful self. I think Purim can be really the start of that, but as the spring is launching, that's pretty fun. Okay. March 19th, new moon in Pisces. Again, I really want to say like there's a new moon in Pisces is so creatively generative because you're kind of in the treasure and in the pile of crap and saying like, ooh, what could we do with all of this? So it's not a new moon is like it's kind of the launching forward, and it's right before Aries season begins. I mean, it's the day before Aries season begins. So what I want to say that I think is really beautiful about this period is it's not just an Aries season where we begin again from scratch. It's not just clean slate. There really is a sense of, like I said, going through the treasure and deciding what you want to take with you, going through the old magazines and deciding what sort of a collage you want to make out of it. So just like that new moon on March 19th, I think the eclipses are so jagged and we kind of learn so much. But the new moon, I think in terms of setting intentions, there is a real peace in the chaos. And there is a peace in being like, all right, this is where I am. There's a huge sense of acceptance. I think Aries, like I said, you're doing so much work around what do we need to close out? What are we too sensitive for? What changes do we need to make? Where's the accountability? With all of that, after all of that, like personal lashing and personal cutting down, finally we come to the new moon and we can just say like, all right, I know what I need to know about myself. This is the stuff that's totally unresolved. This is the stuff that I think I have a grip on. This is what's coming with me. It's time to go up the stairs and emerge into the light and out of the underworld. So that's pretty beautiful. All right. The big chicken that we haven't talked about. Oh, before we even get to that, let me just say Jupiter has been in retrograde. It's been in retrograde since November. Jupiter is in Cancer from June 2025 to June 2026. Jupiter is the planet of light, synthesis, and abundance. Jupiter is the planet of bringing things together, of wisdom. It really is, it's the biggest, brightest gas giant. So Jupiter spends about a year in every sign, and Jupiter really likes Cancer. Cancer is the sign of gestation, of kind of the mother passing on nutrients to the child. It's very much about the tribe, the family. A lot of great writers, from Phoebe Waller-Bridge to Missy Elliott, are Cancers. There's that thing of I am taking all of my influences and where I came from, and I'm going to put it into a story that will be the food for the people. So when Jupiter's in Cancer, it's a really beautiful time for that, not only that gestation, but I think that transmission. And like, I think that when all these planets are in Pisces, they're making trines, which are known as like a supportive aspect in astrology. It's when these planets are kind of working together. As these planets are moving through Pisces, they're going to be trining Jupiter. That's really lovely. I think there really is a sense of, again, out of all of this, what do we want to create? What's the collage? Jupiter has been retrograde since November. That just means that it's needed a little more time for some of these things that have been launching to cook, or maybe to be doing some more behind the scenes work. But on March 10th, Jupiter will really be will be direct in Cancer. It'll be direct in Cancer until it goes into Leo in July, on July 30th. When Jupiter goes into Leo, it'll be a bit more like of time to show. Leo is so much more about hello world, I got it. You know, if we think about Superman flying down from Krypton, Superman really emerges as Leo. I've got a cape. These are me. These are my powers. Jupiter in Cancer is the kind of landing on Earth, learning Earth's customs, deciding what sort of superhero you want to be. So I'm just putting all this out because we have a lot of fire happening. Saturn, Neptune entering Aries. We'll be starting Aries season. Jupiter will be going into Leo by the time it's July 30th. It'll be there for a year. What's nice about this water moment is the sort of, okay, we are in the whirlpool of consciousness and of creativity. So I just want to it's the good bath time. You can take these eclipses to cry in the bath, but we're also in the we're in the hot, it's the soup. You're spending hours making this really beautiful tomka soup that has this really distinct tonkatsu. And that needs that time for it to all cook and for things to really come together and brew. So I wanted to mention that. All right. The big chicken, which I would be remiss not to mention. Mercury will be going retrograde in Pisces, February 26th through March 20th. What does that mean? When a planet is retrograde, as I was just talking about with Jupiter, from our vantage point on Earth, when we are and were observing the planets by a telescope, it would often look like a planet would move into a sign and then move backwards and then go forward again. That was created by the illusory effect of the Earth being in a parallel orbit to another planet. Stick with me. If you've ever been on a train and you've seen another train going in parallel, it often has this weird dizzying effect where it looks like one train is in place while the other is moving forward, or one train is even moving backward. If you've been on a subway, you've seen this happen. It's very trippy. We have that from our vantage point on Earth when we're observing planets, it looks like, oh shit, is she stuck in place? Is she moving backward? That isn't actually happening, but it is germane thematically because during those periods, I know you felt it. That planet's power or drive or influence is either set in review. There's a bit of a rewind. It needs to kind of clean some things up or start over. Things go backwards. And in the case of Mercury, things often go into chaos. So Mercury retrogrades 3 times a year. This year it will be retrograding from water into, it's going to be water. So Mercury is the planet of, Mercury is the doer, the fixer, the voice, the communicator of the gods. When Mercury retrogrades, things kind of go crazy. Mercury deals a lot with the day-to-day, how things get applied, how you're actually making shit happen in your life. And it will actively identify anything that does not work. It will make things a lot more complicated than they need to be, all for the sake of kind of oh shit, we really needed to deal with that. And now it's at a breaking point. My synagogue, there was just a rainstorm and my synagogue, all of these leaks in the roof just spilled out. And we're really having to deal with it. We have to fix the synagogue roofs now. And it's that's Mercury is saying this could not have gone on forever of just observing these holes in the walls. You have to deal with this now. I want to say, as someone who's born with Mercury retrograde, I love these periods because, frankly, if you were born with Mercury retrograde, you'll know what I'm talking about. It actually feels like finally things are going our way. For a 1 month period, things are actually coming together while everyone else is suffering. So I don't mean to say that for everyone, Mercury retrograde is just pure chaos and upheaval. For some of us who experience the world as unforgiving chaos and upheaval on a regular basis, Mercury retrograde will feel a bit more refreshing. That said, generally speaking, Pisces. First of all, just to say, Pisces deals a lot with mental health. Pisces deals a lot with our emotional triggers, how these, Pisces is the sign of the ocean. It's how do these little things lead us into an ocean of emotion and pain? And that can also be good. My Zohar teacher was talking about how, okay, it's not just triggers we should talk about, it's also glimmers. What are those little touch points into higher magic or consciousness, and who are those people that have those glimmers? Mercury in retrograde in Pisces, first and foremost, is going to be doing a really good job of setting those things off. So whatever those micro things are that really set off, as once again, to quote Caroline Polachek, an ocean of tears, the Mercury retrograde will really bring that out. And I think those are good to know. It's not to say that you need to fix them, but it's good to know of just like, you know what? There's a certain person or a certain thing that when it comes up on my feed, it sets me off for the rest of the day. Mercury is going to put it right in my face. Maybe it's time to mute. Okay, now we know. Great. It's a lot of those, which are these little things that have this extreme avalanche effect and lead us into a bigger place. So I would just be aware of, not aware. Mercury will make you aware of them whether you like it or not. And then you can kind of decide what to do with them. Again, the roof is flooding. There are holes in the wall. The flood will destroy everything. Why don't we start looking where those holes are? Mercury deals, Pisces is the sign of Jesus Christ on the cross. So we also want to, I think Mercury will do a pretty good job identifying you where you're taking on too much, maybe where you're doing the like codependent self-sacrificing thing. I think that'll occur in relationships. That'll probably occur in your career of like, this was not yours to take on. You don't need to be doing this for others. This is not your sacrifice to make. And like, this is what happens. Mercury is very good with me, at least, of telling me like, bitch, you took on too much. Why did you agree to this? Who was that for? So I think a Mercury in retrograde in Pisces will say like, I only did this because I thought I was supposed to. And look how it's working out. So keep that in mind. That'll wrap up March 20th. There will be a little shadow period and then things will get going again. Other than that, that's Pisces season for you. So I think, listen, I love making collages. This is the time of the collage. And then in Aries season, you get to present this beautiful collaged piece. So I am wishing you a lit Purim. I will have a full report for you very soon about what costume I wore and how I slayed it at the Megillah reading. If you have enjoyed this, please leave a glowing rhapsodious encomium wherever you listen to your podcasts. We would love on Apple, etc., a long-winded paragraph from you. You can show me what kind of a writer you are, saying how much you love the show. Please send this not only to the Pisceans in your life, but to any emotional, beautiful, magical, glimmering soul out there. And please do all of those. We are available. I would love to hear about your Pisces season, your Purim, your eclipses at ask@heavenlybodiespodcast.com. And you can find me at davidodyssey.com. I will see you next Wednesday. And I am wishing you, as they say in X-Men, welcome to eclipse season. We hope you survive the experience. Mwah. Thank you for listening. This podcast is part of Pride House Media, hosted by David Odyssey and produced by Matthew Breen and Josh Rosenzweig, with original music composed by Nell Balaban. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And while you're there, leave us a rating and review. It really helps others discover the show. I'd love to get to know you, so email questions and visions to ask@heavenlybodiespodcast.com and book a reading with me at davidodyssey.com. Until our next trip, keep looking up.